I'm here with David Kirkpatrick, who has spent a long time now looking at the internet and technology sphere, but really focused a lot on Facebook right now for quite a while in preparation for his book. What are 3 things that people might not know about Facebook?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, the first one I think is that Facebook does not long-term intend to be a website. Facebook believes its long-term opportunity is to be the identity infrastructure of the internet, which means the so-called social graph that Facebook has created, all the friend connections that we all have got on Facebook, ultimately could be effectively used as a infrastructural tool to send information that what we do anywhere on the web to all of our friends using Facebook as essentially the hub. That's sort of the long-term
But
goal.
in terms of identity, would it become a competitor with governments in that sense?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's true that historically governments have been the ones who managed identity, and there's a new phenomenon of a big company on a global basis beginning to manage hundreds of millions of identities in a way that you'd have to argue in many cases is much more thorough representation of the individual than a passport or some of these government-issued documents. Not that the government may not have the data, but it is potentially a long-term challenge to government. I think that governments will begin probably to react excuse me, to Facebook's aggregation of all this personal data, and especially if Facebook identities begin to be used for more and more functions in society, I think governments are going to begin to ask, is that proper? And who knows how that will end up.
So one day we might have a passport, a Facebook passport.
I frankly think that's unlikely, but I think you might end up using your Facebook ID instead of your social security number in a lot of instances where today you just use this number, which as we know is often
printed on a
forged.
piece of paper that you could forge in 10
It's often
seconds.
forged or made up, and people never know. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen once we have this very, very fully elaborated representation of ourselves on the internet that we can use for various purposes.
Okay, excellent. That's one. That's identity.
Okay, now you remind me. You told me. We talked about what these were going to be, Tom. Okay. Oh, then I'd say the importance of Mark Zuckerberg's control of
Yes.
Facebook.
All right. This is a major corporation.
Well, here you have a company that now approaching 400 million active users, that is absolutely and unequivocally controlled by one person, Mark Zuckerberg. And it's not because of the number of shares he owns, although it's sort of indirectly reflected in that, but it is because there are 5 seats on the board of Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg has absolute control of 3 of them. Therefore, nothing can happen at that company that he doesn't agree with. And it's really the explanation for a number of things, including why Facebook is not the subsidiary of Yahoo or News Corp or Viacom or one of the many other companies that have tried to buy it. Or, actually News Corp never tried to buy it, but it was interested. Or why Facebook keeps doing these very aggressive things about privacy that upset people, and yet, even despite how upset people are, they do them again. Right. It's because they reflect Mark Zuckerberg's thinking about how privacy ought to be handled. So I can just tell you 4 things. This is an interesting thing too. You look at the newsfeed controversy, the beacon controversy, the terms of service controversy, and the recent privacy resettings with the everyone privacy setting. Every one of those things has in common that in one way or another it was pushing people to be a little more public about their data than they were comfortable doing. And that's because even though Facebook has a lot of privacy settings that are quite powerful, Zuckerberg himself believes that over time people will desire less privacy.
The nature of privacy itself is changing.
He believes that, and he's trying to allow Facebook's infrastructure and product design to reflect what he sees as a gradually shifting openness, increasing openness over time.
Okay, so this really is a case of if Facebook were a country, it's a country controlled by one guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a benign dictatorship in that sense, and I am an extraordinarily positive admirer of Mark Zuckerberg. And in fact, my book, Facebook Effect, The Inside Story of the Company That Is Connecting the World, coming out June 15th, Simon & Schuster.
At all quality bookshops.
And also published in the UK, Russia, China, etc., is effectively, in large part, a biography of Mark Zuckerberg, because you cannot understand Facebook if you don't understand Mark Zuckerberg. Which brings us to the third point.
You remembered it good.
Which was, is Facebook a business or is it a phenomenon? Now, certainly it's a phenomenon. That's indisputable. It's gone from 0 to almost 400 million in 6 years. That's unprecedented. It's almost exactly 6 years old this week, actually. So However, as we know, it has not had a huge revenue. It's got enough revenue to pay its bills, but it has never sought to become a highly monetized property on the internet. Not like, as we talked about, you know, Yahoo goes into a country, the first thing is, what's our ad strategy?
Yeah, let's hire a team, let's make revenue.
Facebook just goes into a country, and then, oh, they don't even do it on purpose. That people just start using it there, and then the people themselves translate it into that language. This happens over and over again, and then they have to figure, oh, now we have all these new, 10 million new users in Indonesia or whatever, and what do? They don't care. They just want to be able to pay for the growth because they feel ubiquity is where they aim, right? So their basic belief, and Mark's basic belief, has always been, if we seek to make this thing as large as it can possibly be, we should not focus on monetizing until we have come convinced that we've gotten as big as we can get. And because the monetization opportunities will grow so much greater the larger it becomes, that's basically the philosophy. So many people have been confused as they've observed Facebook and wondering, why doesn't it try to make more money? Or is it a crummy ad medium? And we don't even really know the answer to that because they've never really tried that hard. Although they have been trying.
And they haven't tried to monetize it from individuals. Can I give Facebook my credit card details if I want?
They've never.
Can I buy anything from them?
Well, they'll
apart from an ad?
They'll sell you virtual goods. Yeah, sure. Yeah. You can buy presents for your friends on their birthday. Increasingly, you will be able to buy virtual goods from Facebook. That's probably less than 10% of their revenue, but it's a significant revenue piece, 5 to 8% of their revenue right now. But I'm not saying that Facebook hasn't tried to get revenue. Sheryl Sandberg has done a lot of wonderful things as the COO to invent new advertising methodologies inside Facebook. But in terms of the overall corporate focus, it's still on improving the product and growing the service to achieve more ubiquity.
And worry about money later.
Globally. Literally, it's in every single country on the planet now. I mean, I'm sure there's even a few used in North Korea, in the government.
Okay, excellent. So 3 trends to look out for, and in your book, many, many more to come.
In my book, coming out in June, The Facebook Effect. Many more to come.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Tom.